This boy was born with a tremendous source of strength from God. His hand was always on fire. He always carried in his mission to destroy the demons, but a big event happened to him. His father was killed by them while on a mission. From then on, the fire of hatred in him burned even more. Can he finally destroy all the demons to avenge his father and complete the mission that God gave him? I invite you to learn about the movie with me. Young-hoo lost his mother at an early age. He lives with his father, who is a traffic policeman. The whole family are devout Catholics. Every week they spend time going to church to attend mass. His father has to be on the night shift today. Young-hoo smiled and waved goodbye to his father, but he didn't know that it was goodbye. The father, while on duty to test the alcohol content, discovered a suspicious vehicle. The driver's expression was also extremely strange. The black ring on his finger flashed an unnatural red. The same thing happens in the eyes. In addition, faint scales may appear on the face. He suddenly stepped on the gas and sped off. The father, who was clinging to the car door, was also dragged along the road. The girl revealed a devilish smile. Finally, the father was exhausted and was physically affected by the driver. He fell on the road, was run over by a car, and was seriously injured. Young-hoo and grandma, after receiving the news, immediately ran to the hospital. Looked at his wounded father lying in a coma on a hospital bed. Young-hoo didn't know what to do. He hopes that his father can overcome this barrier and recover soon. He ran alone to the church his father used to visit, came to pray for God to save his father. The priest told him that if he prayed sincerely, God would surely hear. However, the boy's sincere prayers did not seem to have any effect. Right in the night, his father finally stopped breathing and left him. Young-hoo meets his father in a dream. His father told him to obey his grandmother. It doesn't matter if study well or not. After that, he must be a good person. When meet someone in need, help them. Father will be by your side forever. He also gave him his ring during the funeral. Facing the priest who came to offer condolences to the family, Young-hoo angrily threw the cross at the priest. The boy brought his father's death to the priest's head. Blame God. Loudly scolded the priest as a liar. 20 years have passed. Young-hoo has become the world kickboxing heavyweight champion. One time in the ring, he saw the tattoo of the Catholic cross on his opponent's back. He once again remembered his father's death, and in his head, someone was reminding him of revenge. Immediately, Young-hoo bravely rushed in and knocked down the opponent with just a few fists. Had it not been for the referee to stop him, the opponent would have logged out on the spot. On the plane back home, Young-hoo once again dreamed of his father. His father led him to a picture of himself, with a cross on it. Since Young-hoo's father passed away, he only has hatred towards Christianity. At this moment in his head he heard that urge again. Young-hoo rushed to grab the cross, intending to break it, but unexpectedly it seemed to take root in his hand and a blazing fire rose up. At the same time, a cloud of black energy was ejected from his body. The intense pain caused Young-hoo to suddenly wake up. The strange thing is that the burned hand in the dream is in fact also bleeding non-stop. After returning home for examination, the doctor said that this is just a normal wound. However, every time it was midnight, there was always a shadow next to Young-hoo's bed. It tries to get into your body. At this time, the wound on the hand will crack again and bleed. The black shadow seemed to be afraid of this, so he ran away. The next few days, the same thing happened again and again. The wound still did not heal, causing Young-hoo's mental state to become worse and worse. The hospital side could not find out the reason why. Too helpless, he decided to find the granddaughter that the driver always mentioned along the way. The granddaughter, known as the Little Witch, had experienced a supernatural incident during her childhood. Since then her eyes have been blind, but although she can't see anything, she has the ability to see ghosts and other supernatural things. The Little Witch said that behind him were a bunch of demons. Because of his evil heart, he attracted many evil spirits. The voice that often appeared in his head was the voice of those spirits. Fortunately, he had a ring on his chest, otherwise he would have died, and the wound in Young-hoo's palm seems to have many origins. Because it is the thing that wards off evil spirits, the Little Witch received the sign of the cross through divination. She told him that there is a cross in the south of his house. Right at midnight, go there, someone will help you. Following the girl's instructions, Young-hoo went to where the cross was, a church, but without waiting for him to go inside. Outside, a large number of crows began to attack Young-hoo in a frenzy. He quickly got into the car to avoid being attacked by them. At this time, two priests, one old and one young, were performing an exorcism inside the church. The elder is called Priest On, another young man called Priest Choi. Under the coordination of the two people, the exorcism took place very smoothly. Use holy water, scriptures, and crosses to inflict pain on the devil. But when the possessed is released from the chains, both of them were completely defeated by the possessed person's physical attacks, leaving them powerless to fight back. Priest Choi participated in this type of exorcism for the first time, and was even more frightened by the devil's true form, abandoned Priest On and fled alone. The two priests were no match for it, let alone the Priest On. Right at the moment when Priest On was about to be strangled to death by the spirit, Young-hoo promptly rushed in. The title of World Kickboxing Champion is an unspoiled reputation. The physical attack that the enchantress was proud of just now, at the hands of Young-hoo, was simply not worth mentioning. Moreover, The blood from the wound on Young-hoo's hand has a very magical effect, directly igniting the possessed person, causing him to let out an extremely painful roar. Father On saw this and immediately poured holy water on the fire. Through a few moves, the demon was burned to ashes by Demon Slayer Flame, but the body of the possessed person is still unharmed. Father On then told Young-hoo that the wound on his hand was a holy sign. It's like the scar on the hand of Jesus when he was crucified. It will appear frequently to believers of deep faith, but Young-hoo had only hatred towards God. But now it turned into a deep belief. He heard the evil spirit urging him to harm the priest. Father On recited prayers to help calm Young-hoo. After learning of Young-hoo's situation, he went to his bedroom and prayed for him. Before leaving, Father On placed his own crucifix on the bedside table and assured Young-hoo that he could come to him anytime. When Father On returned home, he found Father Choi waiting with remorse. Yet, Father On didn't hold any grudges against Choi, acknowledging that everything was part of God's plan. That night, under the blessing of Father On and the protection of his crucifix, Young-hoo finally found the peaceful sleep that had eluded him for so long. However, the next day when Young-hoo saw the crucifix, his initial reaction was one of intense anger. He decisively threw it into the toilet. Just as he was about to flush it away, he hesitated and picked it back up. After cleaning it thoroughly, Young-hoo went to the church to find Father On's address. Later, he secretly returned the crucifix to him. But Father On was no ordinary priest either. He had been sent by the Vatican to seek out a dark force. Father On was currently reporting to the Pope over the phone, stating that it was in South Korea. Meanwhile, at a bar, the bar owner, Ji-sin, was being threatened by a gangster syndicate. The gang's leader menacingly warned Ji-sin that if they didn't provide protection for the bar, they couldn't guarantee its safety. In response, Ji-sin took a black ring and stabbed it into the palm of his hand, using his own blood to draw a snake symbol. His eyes glowed with a red light, and scales appeared on his face. After receiving the warning, Ji-sin told the gangster leader that his partner had a massive gambling debt and was planning to run away with the money. The gangster leader heard these words, immediately turned back and captured his partner. After a period of damnation, the gangster leader decisively eliminated his business partner. Ji-sin was the one who murdered Young-hoo's father that year. 20 years have passed and still so young, he went in front of an altar in the basement of the bar and prayed to Satan, with just a powerful incantation. Ji-sin sent the gangster leader to meet his fate. Then, he offered gangster's soul as a sacrifice to the demon Satan. Ji-sin used this method of continuous soul sacrifice to prolong life. Stay young forever from Satan. The dark force that Priest On is looking for is Ji-sin, over here. After Young-hoo returned the cross, the demons came to harass him again. With no other way, he once again came to the help of Priest On. Father On gave him something blessed by the Pope that could keep him safe from evil spirits. This item can't be bought with money. To thank, he drove Priest On to a family's house to perform an exorcism. Due to Father Choi's previous psychological trauma, he couldn't join this time, leaving Father On to handle the situation alone. Young-hoo followed Father On's shadow and once again recalled memories of his father, reminiscing the words his father had spoken. He felt immense gratitude towards Father On for his assistance and decided to accompany him. The possessed individual was a young girl. Father On used all his equipment and expertise, but couldn't find any signs of demonic possession. However, with his profound knowledge, Father On suspected that the demons were cunningly hiding within, pretending not to occupy the human host. So they cooperated to confront the situation. Young-hoo held the young girl tightly, while Father On poured holy water into her mouth. Finally, the demon inside her revealed itself and attacked Father On from above. Seeing this, Young-hoo rushed in to help, but he was pushed down to the ground by the malevolent spirit. The demon kept whispering in his ear, confessing that it was the one who possessed Ji-sin's body and caused the death of his father years ago. These words enraged Young-hoo, and he lost control. In a fit of anger, he choked the girl even tighter. If it wasn't for Priest On in time to stop him, the possessed girl might have almost disappeared. Young-hoo, after calming down, took advantage of the holy scar on his palm, and cooperated with Priest On to burn the demon inside the girl's body to ashes. This side of Ji-sin's eye is bleeding. Priest On also felt this is related to dark forces. Young-hoo also wondered, why does his hand have a holy scar? Young-hoo's 2 exorcisms made Priest On feel that it's not that Young-hoo doesn't believe in God, but because he believes too much, so finally became to hate God. When the job was done, the 2 asked who the rescued girl had been in contact with. Before the girl could reply, 2 streams of blood flowed from her eyes. That because Ji-sin on this side used a puppet to start casting spells to kill her. Also consider it as a sacrifice for the devil Santa. Fortunately, Priest On is 1 level more skilled. Not only was Ji-sin unsuccessful, the puppet he used to control the girl was also burned by the backlash. Although the girl was saved, she was scared of breaking her bile. The 2 of you can only make an appointment to come back another day. After returning, the 2 of them ate a good meal, drank some wine, and ate meat on skewers. The relationship is also becoming closer. Feels like the friendship of old men in the late afternoon. Over here, Ji-sin learns that Priest On has targeted her through the method of sacrifice. Get hints from Satan and see scenes that never happened. He followed the instructions, went to the boy who was often bullied by his classmates in the reformatory and used a trick of enchantment to make the boy willing to let the devil possess him. He then disguised himself as a tired, pale figure to find Young-hoo on his way home. He lied that he was the priest Choi, who was threatened with leaving a few days ago. Young-hoo couldn't see Choi's face, but the figure seemed to match. He added that he also had a similar wound on his hand. Tomorrow Priest On will definitely ask for help and advise him not to go. Meanwhile, in the reformatory, the nuns were still chanting prayers to suppress the demon-possessed boy. The next day, Father On received the notice and immediately called Young-hoo. Young-hoo was tricked by the guy, so he didn't answer his phone. Priest On can only go there alone. After arriving, only 2 or 3 moves were able to overpower the boy, use the ring to force the demon inside the body to say its name, then successfully defeated this demon. Just when everyone was excited, thinking everything was successful, the boy suddenly let out a shrill scream. As it turned out, the boy was not only possessed by a demon, but had 666 demons inside his body. Without a doubt, it is Santa's subordinate. Although the boy wasn't as difficult to deal with as the adults, Priest On was unable to tame the 666 demons. He quickly exhausted himself and was beaten face down by the boy. A nun promptly saved him with a cross, but very quickly, the sister was also in danger. At this moment, Young-hoo, after careful consideration, appeared in time to rescue the two. Young-hoo used the relic in his hand to deal with the demon again. At the same time, use holy water to pour on the fire. The fire of demons is burned, soaring into the sky, and all the demons are also driven out. Plan failed. Jisin did not commit. Jisin cast spells to control a dog. The dog turned violent, ran to the reformatory and bit the boy to death. Jisin used the boy's pure soul to sacrifice and received a fong from Satan. At this time, Priests On and Young-hoo also received news that the boy had been harmed. When Priest On was praying for the boy's salvation, the lights suddenly started flashing. Then Young-hoo sees Jisin appear here. He immediately followed him. As a result, he was caught in Jisin's tiger dance trap. It wasn't until he had run a lap that he realized this. Priest On was threatened by Jisin with his fangs to take him hostage. He took advantage of Priest On's life to threaten Young-hoo, asking him to swear to refuse God's gift and give up the relic in his hand. Young-hoo could only obey him. At this time, Priest On silently prayed for Young-hoo one last time, then stabbed the fong into his own neck. Seeing hostages no longer works, Jisin had quietly escaped. Young-hoo hurriedly brought Priest On back to the church, and together with Priest Choi, who is living here, make arrangements for Priest On. In order to save Priest On, Young-hoo decides to go alone to destroy the dark force, Jisin. Before leaving, Priest On gave Young-hoo the exorcism ring. This is the ring that has never left on for a moment. Father Choi also gave him the mantle, which was once blessed by the Pope. This is the robe that Priest On gave to Choi. Young-hoo stood before a mirror, adorned in the blessed robe bestowed upon him by the Pope, taking possession of all the belongings left by Father On. Then, he set off with his beloved car. Young-hoo made his way to the house of the girl he had once saved, inquiring about the whereabouts of the dark forces. At that moment, Jisin was performing a ritual, causing all of his minions to be possessed by demons. When Young-hoo arrived at the scene, he faced the obstruction of these minions. However, with the combat skills of a world champion and the power of the sacred relics in his hands, he swiftly incinerated these demons with a single strike. Jisin began to feel uneasy, so he pleaded for help from the demon Satan. Satan instructed him to use his fangs to stab his own heart. Knowing he was going to die regardless, Jisin chose to trust Satan and willingly plunged his fangs into his heart, plummeting into the deep abyss of sacrifice. Young-hoo coincidentally witnessed this scene, shortly after Jisin emerged from the sacrificial pit. However, this time, Jisin had transformed into a monstrous serpent-like creature. His combat prowess multiplied several-fold. The two immediately engaged in a battle. Unfortunately, after Jisin's transformation, Young-hoo's sacred relics lost their effect on him. After losing the strongest advantage, Young-hoo was quickly controlled by Jisin. Jisin even used the fong in his mouth to sneak attack Young-hoo. The toxin quickly invaded Young-hoo's entire body. He slowly sank into the dark. At this time, in the darkness suddenly flashed a light. Young-hoo's father suddenly came out from inside. Young-hoo once again cried with joy when he saw his father again. His father kept his promise to always be by Young-hoo's side. Then his father added strength to the relic on his hand. When Young-hoo woke up, the flame in his hand was already burning fiercely. Then the two jumped into a fight. This time, Young-hoo's demon-killing fire was able to hurt Jisin. Both are equally talented, undefeated. To reverse the situation, Young-hoo took the ring of Priest On and held it in the palm of his hand. The hand of the relic was pierced and blood gushed out. This greatly increased the power of the demon-slaying flames in Young-hoo's hand. In the final confrontation, only one punch caused the dark force Jisin to be seriously injured. Young-hoo then pulls out the fong in Jisin's heart and burns it to ashes with the fire of destruction. The dark force Jisin was completely annihilated. Just when Young-hoo was about to leave, the devil with countless hands appeared and dragged Jisin's body to hell. The dark forces were annihilated, the fangs were destroyed, and Priest On was also out of danger and recovered. After this disaster, two people, one young and one old, hugged each other tightly. Priest On returned safely to Rome. In his letter, On encouraged Father Choi to become an excellent exorcist and gave him his cross in return. The episode ends here. I hope you enjoys today's episode. See you in the next episodes.